The azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise are the 4 divine beasts that dominate the surroundings. But now, they are being toyed with by a little girl who is only 5 years old. Little do they know that these 4 divine beasts were actually pets tamed by Daniel 3,000 years ago. He has been living on this continent for over 3,000 years. You may not be able to imagine that 10,000 years ago, this continent was called the 9 realms of the sky. 9 realms. The mortal ledger has a leaderboard called Ascension Ranking. But 3,000 years ago, a man named Daniel emerged out of nowhere. He swept through all the experts on the list within just 1 year, causing a sensation throughout history. He, however, incurred the displeasure of the powerful beings in the divine realm due to his arrogance and conceit. They unleashed the heavenly thunderbolts, causing Daniel to perish and vanish from this world. Therefore, in commemoration of Daniel, the 9 realms have been renamed the Ninefold Arcane Continent. However, although Daniel's body died, his spirit soul did not perish. 3,000 years later, he was reborn in the Ninefold Arcane Continent. At this time, Daniel arrived at the Celestial Mystic Sect, which was the sect he founded in his previous life. And at this moment, a red-haired girl suddenly appeared. This suddenly startled Daniel. Just saw that the woman's eyes were red and purple. It is indeed the twin Tao body representing extremes of yin and yang. In his past life, Daniel had no disciple. Seeing such a promising talent before his eyes, he couldn't help but have some thoughts. However, at this moment, the sky suddenly darkened, and a 1,000-year-old mystic serpent appeared towering in the sky. Just at that moment, the mystic serpent suddenly exerted force and swung its tail towards the crowd. But at this moment, Daniel only extended 1 finger and caught the tail of the mystic serpent. With a loud bang, the mystic serpent was seen flying out and crashing towards the ground in an instant. Its cultivation achievement of 10,000 years disappeared in an instant with just 1 finger from Daniel. At this moment, he saw the spirit soul of the mystic serpent appearing in his palm. Daniel then gifted the spirit soul to the red-haired girl. As a result, he learned that the girl's name was Ella, and she lived by begging after losing both of her parents. At this moment, the Celestial Mystic Sect disciple instantly surrounded Daniel, ordering him to hand over the spirit soul. But Daniel is not an easy target, only to see a burst of red light flashing around him. A flaming dragon instantly envelopes this city. This directly scared the Celestial Mystic Sect disciples so much that they lost control of their bladder and bowels. Daniel looked at the sect disciple behaving so arrogantly, which instantly made him burn with anger. However, just as Daniel was about to take matters into his own hands, a girl in blue gauze came walking towards them. The woman is none other than Celestial Mystic Sect Saintess Remy. Both of you, please forgive us. The inefficient management of the Celestial Mystic Sect disciple has caused you distress. At this moment, Daniel saw the clues. You, this girl, possess the unique sword body, but have developed an incurable illness in your cultivation. It seems like you are on the verge of death. When this statement was made, Remy was instantly stunned. May I ask, how did you figure it out? If you want to resolve the trouble, quickly prepare an upper room for me and Ella. And you must come to my room alone tonight. Daniel, who arrived through reincarnation, is currently inside the Celestial Mystic Sect Inn. And at this moment, Remy also kept their promise and came alone to Daniel's room. Remy came as agreed, not knowing how you plan to rescue. Daniel said nonchalantly at this moment, "You're not my wife. Why should I save you?" Unless the Saintess is willing to be my personal maid, tending to my daily needs. At this moment, Remy could not refuse. In comparison to humiliation, life was more important. Daniel's hands emitted golden light, suppressing the fiery essence in Remy's dantian. After 3 hours of casting spells, he finally suppressed the fiery essence within Remy. At this moment, Daniel went to the window inside. Let's start the journey to the divine realm from the Celestial Mystic Sect. Early in the morning, Daniel arrived at the Celestial Mystic Sect Square with Remy. Today is the Celestial Mystic Sect's entrance test, and everyone is gathered together, only to see fire splashing in the square. Obviously not a single disciple passed the assessment. This also disappoints Daniel greatly, as there is not a single one he approves of. At this moment, everyone's gaze turned to Daniel one after another. I saw Remy holding a fan, fanning Daniel to cool him down, when suddenly 3 figures descended from the sky. They were the 3 who had passed the assessment. However, in just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, they broke through the celestial azure great Luo heaven formation. You stinky beggar! How dare you blaspheme the saintess like this? Daniel smiled faintly at this time. The 3 of you are not qualified yet to be a janitor in the Celestial Mystic Sect. The 3 of them were instantly enraged upon hearing this. You stinky beggar, if you have the guts, come up and give it a try. Let us broaden our horizons. When this was said, Daniel was stunned. You want me to give it a try? Just this formation, any ordinary person can break it. It's unnecessary for me to act. At this moment, Daniel looked at Ella beside him, and Ella came over. Wait a moment. When you get to formation, just follow what I told you. Ella waved to Daniel and walked straight into the formation, stunning everyone with the audacity of letting a child break into the formation. Are you even a person? At this moment, Ella has stepped into the formation and her whole body is surrounded by raging flames. She walks forward 3 steps, and then turns left for 4 steps. The black tortoise divine elephant instantly activates. Not a single spike around her managed to attack. And at this moment, Ella moved forward 3 spaces again. The fierce black tortoise unexpectedly turned into a turtle. However, after an incense stick's worth of time, I saw that Ella had the 4 great divine beasts lying on her body. This scene completely subverted the understanding of the 3 elites of the outer sect. They looked so ridiculous with their faces being slapped loudly. When Ella passed by the crowd with the 4 divine beast cores, there was a continuous wave of surprised voices. A mortal without cultivation achievement really broke through the 5th rank Great Luo Heaven formation, and she is just a little girl. When Ella returned to Daniel's side, she asked, Big brother, can I keep these little animals? Daniel replied softly as he lay down. If you want to keep them, then keep them. Then he nonchalantly picked up the little white tiger and said, This celestial azure Great Luo Heaven formation. It should have been eliminated 1,000 years ago. After holding the little white tiger, he continued disdainfully. The downside of the formation set up with a 5th rank beast core is too many. Even ordinary people can pass this. There is no meaning in assessment at all. Obviously, these words are deliberately said for the people of the Celestial Mystic Sect to hear. Celestial Azure, the 3 elites of the outer sect listened with clenched teeth and tightly clenched fists. The formation that they regarded as a heritage of 1,000 years was deemed worthless by an unknown beggar. How could they not be infuriated? However, the fact that this young girl actually succeeded left these 3 individuals feeling unable to voice their anger. However, the quick-minded Remy detected a different taste. She refilled Daniel's cup and asked, Do you want to set up a better formation for the Celestial Mystic Sect? Daniel felt embarrassed, not expecting the young girl to involve him in her ideas. Without waiting for Daniel to refute, she continued with a sly smile. With your skills, setting up a more advanced formation should be a piece of cake, right? Daniel, a cunning person, who has lived for thousands of years, how could he not know that this girl is deliberately flattering him just to make him a free laborer? He raised his wine glass and said, Once you've served me well and made me comfortable, maybe I'll casually set up a formation for you all. Although Remy appeared to agree eagerly on the surface, her heart was already on the verge of a rampage. Today, he has already made the Saintess lose face 3 or 5 times. She must find an opportunity to get back at him in the future. Daniel, of course, had no idea what Remy was thinking at the moment. Seeing the dissipated Great Luo Heaven formation, he couldn't help but fall into reminiscence. He didn't expect that thousands of years later, the Celestial Mystic Sect would still treasure this outdated formation. After all, This formation was just a simple one he created on a whim to catch birds back in the day. In fact, he had long thought about giving the Celestial Mystic sect a better formation, considering it was something he had personally established. Upon seeing the 3 elites of the outer sect not leaving yet, Daniel asked curiously, "Now that the formation is broken, do you still have any business here?" They replied that they didn't have any business, but deep down, they were still feeling unwilling to leave. Jose has a displeased expression on his face. He didn't expect that the formation they worked so hard to break was effortlessly broken by a little girl, leaving Leon feeling embarrassed. It was a merciless blow to the face, and yet they had nothing to say in return. Only Logan, who relies on brute strength, was unhappy, and he shouted towards Daniel. "You're just being tricky. You're not relying on your own true abilities." I heard that Daniel just stretched and muttered a few words. In such a grand entrance examination, not even one disciple that meets the standard was found. He then fixed his sharp gaze on Logan and continued. "Each one of them is so arrogant, it's boring." Logan knows he is in the wrong. For a moment, he was also left speechless by the criticism. Later, he drifted away alone. Ella just left Remy to take care of some things. Remy kindly informed him that the Celestial Mystic sect has many forbidden areas that are very dangerous. Before she could finish, he interrupted with a strange sentence. "I know this place better than you do." This once again surprised Remy. Daniel arrived at a cliff. He yawned and then took a step forward. Unexpectedly, he found that he could walk on air in the void. In the blink of an eye, Daniel has drifted to a floating small island. After he entered the villa on the small island, Daniel found that there were actually barrels of spiritual liquor here. He was a connoisseur of fine liquor, so he immediately opened a barrel to taste it fresh. Just as he was holding up the wine jar, a black hand suddenly grabbed him. A fierce-looking old man suddenly appeared behind him. "The little rascal dared to steal my wine." "You little rascal. Put it down right now." The white-haired old man grabbed Daniel's hand, trying to make him put down the wine. Daniel smiled with his eyes closed and asked, "What if I don't put it down?" "Then I will slaughter you." White-haired old man suddenly exerted force, trying to pull Daniel's hand down. To his surprise, the young man in front of him remained unmoved, which greatly astonished him. He looked at this person who was young. He did not expect that this small figure would have such great strength. He cursed angrily again. "You little brat, which peak are you from?" Daniel saw the old man suffer and mocked him, saying, "You don't care which peak I come from." He lifted the wine jar and drank heartily, saying, "I've set my sights on Swordage Peak now. I'll hang out here from now on." White-haired old man had never seen such a person at the Celestial Mystic sect, and most people wouldn't dare to act recklessly on his Sword Edge Peak. He threatened to teach the person a lesson on behalf of his master, with his spiritual power already beginning to condense in his hands. He then slapped it over. As his palm was about to hit Daniel, a puff of blue smoke rose up. Old man didn't even have time to see clearly as Daniel disappeared right in front of him. This made him even more furious and surprised. Without waiting to give it more thought, Daniel, who was already sitting on the other side of the wine jar, said, "You old man, you're outdated. I'm just drinking your outdated spiritual brew." Touching upon his own personally brewed spiritual liquor being belittled as common goods felt like hitting a sore spot for him. Old man's momentum suddenly increased, his spiritual power continuously rising. He was already in a state of fury. "You can say anything you want, but dare you say that my spiritual brew is a dime a dozen? I will teach you a lesson about running your mouth. I want to beat you to a pulp and keep you by my side as wine boy," cursing Daniel, while old man strikes towards Daniel like lightning. Daniel didn't even bother with this foul-mouthed old man. Although his temper was a bit hot, he was also a person who loved drinking, which suited his taste. Then he gently tapped the wine jar. He made an incredible fast hit, and struck the old man. At that moment, Daniel's voice also came through. "I don't mind having an old wine boy as a companion on Sword Edge Peak." Just being hit by a wine jar made this old man tumble far away before resolving the force within. After landing, he unexpectedly coughed up a trace of fresh blood. Even Daniel didn't expect that he could injure old man with just one layer of his own strength. Upon closer inspection, he discovered that old man was covered in wounds of all sizes. Despite his skills not being weak, he was too injured to fully unleash his strength. At this moment, a strange aroma of wine wafted out from the distant hall. When the scent of wine drifted to Daniel's nose, it gave him another surprise. He didn't expect to find wine in such a dilapidated hall. Then, with a blink, he teleported into the grand hall. Old man also knew that he had offended some important figure. He quickly stood up to stop him from going in. There's nothing inside. Isn't this too obvious of? Where there's smoke, there's fire. The aroma of alcohol is wafting out. How could there be no drinks? Although Daniel had a smile on his face this time, his warning words made old man hesitate to take another step forward. The old man, without my permission, you are not allowed to enter. Otherwise, I will hit you every time I see you. When he walked in, he exclaimed in surprise. Good kid. He actually brewed this. In front of him appeared a huge wine cauldron, and the rich and unique aroma just now was emanating from it. The liquor inside was so familiar to Daniel, it turned out to be superior spiritual brew. What surprised Daniel was that this fiery-tempered old man could brew superior spiritual liquor, a drink that only a few people in the divine realm could produce. It shows that this old man's skill is indeed impressive. At this moment, Daniel is so drooling with desire. He leaped up and landed on the wine cauldron in one bound. Just as he opened the wine cauldron full of hope, he was shocked to find a purple-haired girl immersed in the pool of wine. And this girl is none other than the Demoness trapped in Demon Imprisonment Hall. But right now, this state is just her spirit soul. Her true self should still be in the dungeon of the Demon Imprisonment Hall. At that moment, the Demoness spirit soul opened her eyes. She also muttered about who disturbed her sleep. When she fully saw, it turned out to be a strange man staring at her. She knew that her discovery of the secret of this superior wine had been found out, so she immediately fled in panic. However, it was strange that Daniel did not rush to catch her. He obviously has a way to deal with her. After all, she may escape for now, but she can't escape forever. She may hide on the first day, but she can't hide on the 15th day. The essence of this superior wine has been absorbed by the spirit soul of the Demoness, losing at least 90% of its celestial aura and flavor. Daniel, who is a wine lover, jumped into the wine cauldron, which is equivalent to wasting precious wine for those who love it. Daniel smirked devilishly. It seems that the Demoness will soon meet her downfall. The old man outside the hall is lying on the ground, wailing loudly because the superior wine brewed in the pot inside the hall took him a full 49 years to make. He is indeed a poor old man. His crying abruptly stopped when a foot appeared in front of him. This is Daniel's return. He told the old man that he hadn't touched the fine wine in the hall at all. Then Daniel wanted to ask the old man some questions. As soon as he heard that his precious fine wine was still there, he immediately sat up from the ground. After taking a long breath, he calmed down. Immediately, he reverted to his previous violent temper and pointed at Daniel. You brat! Who are you exactly? Who knows that once Daniel changes his smiley face, the ancestor's anger erupts. He descended like an emperor, frightening the old man beyond measure. He stammered and said, Let Daniel ask. Is there anyone else besides you at Sword Edge Peak? Old man said that besides him, there is no one else at Sword Edge Peak, and this peak has been abandoned since 2,000 years ago. Daniel continued to ask, Do you know if there is any forbidden area at Sword Edge Peak? The old man waved his hand and said he has been living here for almost 200 years. There isn't really any so-called forbidden area here. If there were a forbidden area, he would have trespassed many times. Seeing no information can be obtained again. Daniel turned around to bid farewell to the old man and then left. As Daniel walked away, the old man was still wondering who this familiar young man was. Stop thinking, old man. Even if you rack your brains, you won't figure it out. The scene quickly switched to true martial hall on Sword Edge Peak. Daniel pushed open the door and walked in. He saw the dilapidated and ancient hall. It's just as that old man said. I'm afraid no one has been here for over 2,000 years. It's no wonder the Demoness spirit soul could escape. And isn't the tall stone statue in front of him the statue of Daniel? Seeing his own statue, which was on the verge of crumbling, covered in dust and cobwebs, he also guessed that the demon imprisonment hall established by himself in the true martial hall had long been left unattended, right? When he walked behind the stone statue and stomped hard on the ground, a stone staircase leading underground suddenly appeared before their eyes, and at the end of this road was the entrance to the demon imprisonment hall. The entrance still has a formation seal, but its power is no longer as strong as before. So what kind of being is actually imprisoned inside? Is it really the same Demoness that appeared before? Who is truly confined in the demon imprisonment hall? Upon seeing Daniel arriving at the entrance, the formation instantly dissipated, and the gate automatically opened. Returning to this place after 2,000 years, Daniel couldn't help but sigh at the merciless passage of time. This is a skeleton. It seems that before dying, the person was using their last strength to write something on the ground. Upon closer inspection, it revealed the words, "It's been 2,000 years. Celestial mystic sect, ruthless to prisoners, I'm starving to death. Who will come and end my suffering?" The person who had turned into a skeleton was none other than the ruthless general from the demonic sect 2,000 years ago. It's surprising to see that he was starved to death here. In another cell, there is another skeleton. It is the infamous pirate who once dominated the entire continent. There is also a set of dried bones from the demon race. This demon, who caused chaos across the continent back then, took a lot of effort to capture. Now, they have all returned to dust. It seems that everyone imprisoned here in the past was wicked and vicious. Just as Daniel was lost in memories, a voice came from the innermost cell. "It's been 2,600 years. You haven't come back since you left." The words inscribed on a piece of floor are all insults directed at Daniel. The room where the voice came from, isn't that the little Demoness from earlier? I didn't expect her true form to be imprisoned here. Little Demoness buried her head in the wooden table, murmuring, "Have you really forgotten me? You lured me here with sweet words and then imprisoned me. At least come and accompany me." Listening to these words, could it be Daniel's former lover from back then? Could a righteous ancestor have had a relationship with a demonic woman? This little Demoness is none other than the Saintess Yo-Yo of the Desire Demon sect of the demonic cult in the past. At this moment, she appears extremely pitiful. After all, she can only manifest her spirit soul to go and steal some spirit chi every day, but it's simply not enough. If this continues, she will starve to death here sooner or later. Thinking that all of this was caused by that stinky man Daniel, she gets so angry that she starts hitting and making a scene again. Just at this moment, the sound of footsteps approached from far away. This took Yo-Yo completely by surprise. Could it be that a disciple of the celestial mystic sect has finally discovered this place? Yo-Yo then spat out a breath of demonic chi and floated away. When this strand of demonic chi floated in front of Daniel, he found out that this little girl dared to bewitch people here. He felt more and more that it was right to seal this place again before going to the divine realm. Otherwise, if she had escaped, it would have been chaotic long ago. When Yo-Yo saw a figure gradually appearing, she grinned mischievously and said, "Hee hooked." Yo-Yo, afraid of missing the once-in-a-millennium opportunity, exerted the last bit of her profound energy and layered it on top of her most confident spell. With a loud bang, a strong puff of pink smoke rose up. Then, a slender figure of a charming demon appeared. When the smoke cleared, the little girl unexpectedly transformed into a hot and charming young woman. So this is the spell that Yo-Yo bet on before. Is this not the beauty trap? But does it seem useful for Daniel, who is wholeheartedly devoted to Taoism, at the moment? When Daniel approached, Yo-Yo flirtatiously said, Hey, handsome, are you here to rescue me? This made Daniel blush without even realizing it. Then, there was a sudden reversal. Stop making noise! Just now, you stole my superior spiritual brew, and I haven't settled the score with you yet. This statement left Yo-Yo in her maiden form feeling confused for a moment. Then she remembered and started pondering in her heart that the man in front of her was probably a new disciple of the celestial mystic sect. He should be easy to deceive. Then she teased Brother Daniel. What good drinks are there? As long as you let me out, I'll do as you say. After saying that, she even threw a very seductive wink at Daniel. If it were someone else, they would have been charmed long ago. But Daniel knows her inside out. For a moment, he was extremely troubled. It had been 2,000 years since they last met. She not only grew bolder, but also dared to charm her own head. This is going to be quite a show. A 1,000-year-old Lolita transforms into a charming young woman in seconds. Can Daniel resist this? When Yo-Yo heard Daniel mention that they hadn't seen each other in 2,000 years, she became puzzled and asked, Who are you? Have we met before? Aren't you just a newcomer celestial mystic sect disciple? It seems that the illustrious Demoness of the Desire Demon sect can now only rely on her eyes to recognize others. Can't you even sense my aura anymore? Daniel deliberately said to her. Yo-Yo used her strength to sniff the aura emanating from the man in front of her. It seemed very familiar, but she wasn't certain. Suddenly, she felt that this was Daniel's aura. Suddenly, her heart was in turmoil, but something didn't quite feel right. There is still a slight difference between them. After careful consideration, she realized. She suddenly emitted red light from her eyes and cursed. You are actually a descendant of Daniel. Tell me who your mother is. I want to take her down. How dare she steal my man? I've been wondering why he hasn't come to be with me for over 2,000 years. Turns out he has found a new love. When this was said, Daniel was completely confused. Even before Daniel could speak, she continued to vent her anger. Did your mother specifically send you here? Is she here to show off that she took Daniel away from me? Otherwise, how could anyone from Daniel's lineage know about this dungeon? Stinky man, dead man, big villain. It seems that this little Demoness and Daniel really have a story. But Daniel doesn't even know when he got married and had a son? This little Demoness not only fantasized about the plot herself, but also deliberately acted so convincingly. Seeing Daniel remain silent, she cried and cried, calling out that she even had a son, but he wouldn't let me go, and even allowed his son to humiliate me. He saw this little girl display a series of acting skills comparable to that of a top actress. Daniel fortunately sat down to watch her perform, but to his surprise, her talent had not improved over the years. However, her imagination had become richer. When he really couldn't stand it anymore, Daniel reached out and leaned closer to her forehead. Then he flicked her sharply. Yo-Yo let out a sharp scream from the pain. Yo-Yo thought she was being bullied. She was ready to use her ultimate move to take both of them down with her. Daniel added, Haven't you realized it yet? I am Daniel. Originally, he thought Yo-Yo would believe him, but this absent-minded person actually said, Don't try to deceive me. Although you look very much like your father, there is still a difference. The most important thing is that even though your father has always been in the body refining realm, he still has cultivation achievements, but you don't have any cultivation achievements at all. Then Yo-Yo looked at Daniel as if she had figured something out. Suddenly she crossed her arms in fear, thinking that he was trying to impersonate his father for some reason. This scene totally rendered Daniel speechless. Could it be that 2,000 years had turned her into a fool? Or was she pretending to be foolish and acting all along? Impatient Daniel stretched out his hand and released his magic power. He sucked Yo-Yo onto the prison door. Then he gently scratched her forehead with a pointed finger. Yo-Yo's charm art was instantly shattered. She returned to her true form after a moment. One more thing is that this kind of charm technique is completely ineffective on Daniel. Yo-Yo, who turned back into a lowly, was surprised and asked Daniel, How can you undo my transformation? Daniel reached out and pinched her chubby face. Why can't a nice little doll be left as is? Do you think it's fun to turn into an adult? Then, Daniel helped Yo-Yo remember. When she first seduced him, Daniel grabbed and spanked her. Her buttocks were swollen for half a year before recovering. After she sneaked out of the dungeon the second time, she actually drugged Daniel's bathwater. After being detained by Daniel for the third time, he released her 100 years later. Before leaving, he warned her not to return to the so-called Desire Demon sect. The saintess' identity is actually a trap, but she wouldn't listen. In the end, it was Daniel who rescued her at the critical moment. As Daniel recounted the scenes of the past, the stories that only she and Daniel knew unfolded.